Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy International Women's Day. Today I'm going to be doing a video that goes through books that I've read and have adored that have either or both fantastic female characters, female authors. I saw Bookish Topics do this video and she did an amazing job. I found it really informative and it definitely added to my TBR. So I thought I would do that as well. Sorry for all the background noise as well. Kiara is making her presence known, so she's just inserting herself. But anyway, the first book I would like to talk about, I don't actually have here, so I'll put a picture up, and that is the Lux series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Also pretty much any of Jennifer's work, at least that I've read. I adore the Lux series. It is my favorite series. The main protagonist, her name is Kat, or Katie. She is a bona fide book nerd. She runs a book blog, and she is so feisty. She's so sassy. She doesn't let anybody push her around or get the best of her. She's independent. She knows what she stands for, and I love her. I can't recommend this series enough. Jennifer has other series with amazing female protagonists as well, but this is the first of Jennifer's work that I read, and the nostalgia, I'm always going to be biased to it. I'm always going to be so biased to it, but Katie is still, to date, my favorite female protagonist out of the different works of Jennifer's that I have read. The idea behind the story is, you can't say much without really giving stuff away. But there's a romance element. It's YA. I guess it would probably be classed under YA fantasy. It deals with extraterrestrial and romance and really fun stuff. So, yeah. The next book I'm going to talk about is a bit of a cheat because I literally started it last night, but it's based on a character I've already read a fair amount about. So, that is The Penelope by Margaret Atwood. This focuses on Penelope's story, Odysseus' wife from the Odyssey by Homer. So Margaret takes her already in Hades' realm, already in the underworld, retelling her story from her point of view. And already it's so haunting, it's so good. But I love Penelope. I love how smart and cunning she is. And hi Kiara. She doesn't let anybody get the best of her. She gets the best of her suitors all the time. Like, she tricks them for 3 years to avoid marrying them, and she never gives in. She's so strong-willed. She's so patient. She's so smart, and I just really respect her, and I adore reading about her. I think she's fantastic. Now, the next book I'm going to mention is the first of the Bronte sisters I ever read, which is Anne Bronte, and the first book of hers I read was Agnes Gray. I almost said them the other way around. I adore the Bronte sisters. I haven't read Emily's work yet, so I won't mention her books here. I am sure she is just as amazing as her sisters. I have started Wuthering Heights, but I haven't been able to get into it yet. Anyway, Agnes Gray is an incredible story about a woman who becomes a governess, and she wants to prove that she can be her own person and that she can live her own life and, really just take control of her future. And she goes through a lot of trials, and it's really when I think of a classic, this is what I think about. And it's short. It was such a quick read, but it was the first classic I read last year. This is the book that got me into classics, and I love Anne's writing. She just bluntly puts it out there, and she just writes beautifully. I absolutely adore her. To quickly mention Anne's other novel, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I was so sad when I finished this book because it meant I was done reading Anne's work. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is said to be like one of the original feminist novels. It focuses on... It was confusing for me because it starts with the perspective from a male point of view, but then you see that change and you see why, and it kind of takes you through it. I thought it had been like mismarketed essentially, and it was actually about a guy, but it's not at all. It's about this woman in an unhappy relationship, in an abusive relationship, and what she does to take her life in her hands. And it is amazing. It is timeless. It is absolutely timeless. This is always, always going to be relevant, you know, and I absolutely adored it. I cannot recommend it enough. And in particular, I love this edition. It's the Vintage Classics Bronte edition. The next book I'm going to mention is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book took the internet by storm last year, and honestly, I can totally understand why. I absolutely loved it as well. It focuses on, basically, this woman is writing an article about the life of Evelyn Hugo, narrated from herself. Sorry, not an article, biography. And Evelyn takes her through her life and through her 7 husbands. And you gain so much respect for her and what she went through and how just intense and insane her life was. And I really, really loved it. I loved it a lot more than I expected to. I didn't think I wouldn't like it, but I didn't have like high anticipation for it. But no, I adored it. I really did. I know Taylor Jenkins Reid has other books out, and I really hope to read others. I think there's Malibu Rising and Daisy Jones and the Six, I think. So I'm trying to see which one I want to read next, but I absolutely love this. And also, if you like, you know, celebrity gossip, old Hollywood, red carpet, that kind of vibe, this is so for you. It's amazing. Then the next book, I mentioned only a couple of times, right? Only a couple. So I'm going to very briefly touch on it. Well, that is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. What more can I say? It takes the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur, but it goes beyond that. It's Ariadne's story, and through her voice, she's given a voice. And you hear how all she wants is to have her independence and take her life, you know, into her own hands. And just, she's so determined, she's so loving, she's so caring, she's so empathetic. I just absolutely adore her. It also discusses her sister Phaedra. I definitely was more emotionally attached to Ariadne. But genuinely, it's such a good book. I can't recommend it enough. Read it. Read it. Then the next book is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I know, but I'm talking about Hamnet. So this book discusses the lives of Shakespeare's children, but it really focuses on his wife's story from her childhood through meeting him, marrying him, having the children, him discovering his fame, being away from home more and more often, how she copes with that, how her kids cope with that, and it's just, Maggie's writing is just, and it had me so emotional. I absolutely loved it, and yeah, I thought it was fantastic. If you love anything Shakespeare historical fiction, you'll adore this. I can't recommend it enough. Then the next book I'm going to recommend is Cersei by Madeline Miller. This is the first Greek myth retelling I ever read, and it's really due for a reread. It is a stunning book about Cersei, who is Helios' daughter. She gets exiled to an island to live out the rest of her eternity there. And over time, she really comes into herself. She discovers her own, she practices her magic, and you really see her grow and develop and become independent within herself. What's really cool that I've seen crossing over through books now, which is really neat, is seeing when Odysseus stops on her island and stays with her for a year, which obviously you see in the Odyssey. You read about it in A Thousand Ships as well, so it's really cool kind of just seeing that happen in all possible different perspectives. But I absolutely love this. I also have read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and I think she is an incredible author. Then the next book I'm going to mention is by Charlotte Bronte, who I adore, and it is Jane Eyre. I read this book last year. I started with Anne Bronte. When I finished Anne, went to Charlotte, and I've absolutely loved this. I want to read more of Charlotte's work. I want to read Villette and Shirley and The Professor. I just, again, need to decide what next. But this, as with so many of these, it's both the protagonist and the author that are just absolutely incredible. Jane Eyre is an orphan living with family, treated absolutely horribly, sent off to a boarding school, life turns around, becomes a governess, and things happen. Things happen. Most of the Bronte's work is said to be, in some way or another, a reflection of their own lives, because they did, Emily and Charlotte all did either teach or be a governess or something along that line, and their books did highly reflect that as well. So like for Anne, I think Agnes Gray was said to be kind of based on her, and I think for Charlotte it is Jane Eyre. It's either Jane Eyre or maybe Villette. Actually, changing my answer, I think it's Villette. That's really said to be more based on her life. But regardless, I love it. I love just the gloomy, beautiful descriptions. I love that Jane is, she's so like, no, I'm me, I'm different, and I'm not going to change for anybody. And she's so firm in that fact. Like, there's a point where, you know, beautiful dresses, jewels, all of this is being recommended to her, and she's like, that's not me. That's not who I am. There's a quote from the book, I am no bird and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. And that just embodies Jane perfectly. She is amazing. I adored her. All of these characters I would just love to sit down, have a cup of coffee with, and chat. Same with the authors. Would love to just sit down, have a chat, and just pick their brains and just learn. I adored her. And the fact that, especially back when this book was written, like, it was really unheard of. Like today, if a book's written with a woman celebrating her independence, and that's something that's celebrated and is amazing, and it's still very new and fresh. But back then, when these were written, it was unheard of. It's absolutely unheard of. So I think that's really amazing, and I love this book. Now, the last book that I'm going to mention is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is the omnibus of Austen's novels. The only one I've read so far is Pride and Prejudice. I'm going to be reading Northanger Abbey next. It's decided. Northanger Abbey. But let me know what your favorite Austen novel was. In Pride and Prejudice, we see Elizabeth Bennet. We see a lot of female characters. And there's one, what's it called? There's another book, The Other Bennet Sister. I think it focuses on her sister Mary. I want to read that one. But I love how much Elizabeth knows her own mind, and she's not going to change. She's going to be herself. She's proud of who she is. She's unapologetically herself, and I absolutely adore that. And I think that is a common theme with Jane's female protagonists from what I have heard, which I really just love to see. That was quite the problem I found when I was, you know, a preteen and teenager reading like YA or whatnot. I found not a lot of books that had really strong female characters. Most of them were like, if I don't have them, I'll die, and that's just unacceptable. I really don't like that. And it seems to be more mainstream now for there to be really strong female characters, which is fantastic. That's the way it should be. But if you look back at these classics, like, they knew how to do it. They did it right. So I adored Pride and Prejudice. That was my last read of last year, and I cannot wait to read another one of her works. So those are the books that represent to me both amazing authors as well as female characters. I've read and fallen in love with each of them, and I can't recommend them all enough. I really hope that from this video I've sparked your interest in at least one of them. If you've read any of them or added them to your TBR, please let me know. That would be amazing. And if you want to like, comment, and subscribe, I would really, really appreciate that. I hope you have an amazing International Women's Day, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe and take care. Bye.